Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast, Monique de Maio, Possibilities. We're going to be interviewing Kendra Debree, who's in our the book that I am so excited to bring you, The 7 Secrets to Creating and Designing a Life You Love, a practical guide for women in leadership. And Kendra talks about choice. Choice is my favorite topic. My favorite because I assert that everything is a choice. Let's unpack that a little bit. So, I'd like to introduce you to Kendra Debree, basically the rock star, as I call her. Kendra and I know each other for a really long time. We met while she was the general manager of a fantastic and very successful gym in the area. She has a long and deep, wide history of retail operations. And I have the pleasure of working with her here at On Demand CMO for the last 5 years or so. And I actually don't remember life without her. And I actually don't want to actually have life without her because she's awesome. So here's Kendra Debree. I'd like to introduce her. And voila. So Kendra, you can say a couple words before we get down to interview.
Oh, well, if everyone can see the screen, they probably see that I'm blushing right now. I
Oh,
always feel honored to be able to work on projects with you. And I think we manifested this because we
we
wanted
did.
to work with one another. And I used to call and get your advice on this, that, and the other thing, life, professional things that were going on. So, yeah, I've been wanting to work with you and we get to do it now. Thanks to COVID. Thanks, COVID.
Who says nothing good could come
I
out of COVID?
mean, I'm like a glass half full kind of girl. So, even when things are down, I always try to look at things on the bright side. And now I don't have to try anymore. I guess I've reprogrammed my brain to always see the positive.
That's awesome.
Until I go home and I close my door and then I vent to my husband and then he gets all the real stuff.
Yeah, you know what? We have to that brings up another chapter is how what we say what we say to other people about ourselves or what we say to ourselves is really important too because how you talk to yourself and how you talk to others about yourself is so critical to actually our physiology, and the research is showing that that kind of wires our day.
Our psyche, right? And then it emulates. So someone that has like bad conversations in their head, they're not necessarily the people that I want to surround myself.
No, it definitely emanates out. It permeates their insides and it emanates out. And you could see it from a standpoint of energy. Like I meet somebody and I'll be like, she's got great energy. I get that a lot from people like, you have great energy. And I'll go, really? And then until I kind of studied it and understood what they were talking about, and now I get it. And now I say that to people. I don't know, it's because I'm old now that I get like to understand what that meant when people were saying it to me. I didn't know how to channel it, but as you know, I've learned a lot in 20 years. I'm so much smarter than I was.
You're wise beyond your years.
I'm wise beyond my years. But so talk to us about choice. So you're in the book, you're in the third secret, choice. What does choice mean to you?
Ooh, okay, we're going to get deep here. Well, choice, I feel like it has transformed or it meant something different to me when I was younger. And now that I'm in my older age, I'm nearing breaking that 40 point. So
Kendra and I are 20 years apart almost to the day.
but we look like sisters. So I want to know your secrets next.
As soon as the book is published, the entire world will.
She's sharing it all. Well, yeah, when it comes to what does choice mean to me, it means that nothing's set in stone, that you can create what you want to create. And I think it just depends on where you want to put your energy to. So yeah, sometimes we're faced with small choices. I know you talk about that in the book. There's, little choices like, ooh, what am I going to eat for lunch today? Do I go for that greasy cheesesteak that I probably already know what it tastes like? Or do I go for that salad that has greens and it has all the good things for me. And I know that it's going to make me feel good about myself at the end of the day. So 90% of the time I go for the salad because I've learned that it's the better choice for me. And I feel for me, I'm always better at kind of sharing and telling people on what they should choose. But when it comes to myself, it's a little bit harder.
It's always harder for ourselves to eat our own, I call it eating your own dog food, and I fortunately or unfortunately have built a system around me that my entire family calls me on my shit whenever I'm off my game. And so my husband will be like, "You need to eat your own dog food right now." Or the best he says is, "Are you being your best self with me right now?"
We've actually
Oh,
adopted
that
that
is
in my house, thanks to you.
you did?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
lovely. It's level setting. But so when we talked and you shared your personal story about growing up and not having various role models and learning things on your own, you've kind of been a student of life and a student you've self-taught yourself a lot of things because I think you're a curious learner like myself, which is why we probably get along so well. And tell me a little bit about growing up and the story that people had about you about a physicality and what that triggered in your speaking, in your being, in your growing up, and then what you had to kind of do to overcome it so you weren't stuck with that.
Yeah. It's interesting because I can't pinpoint the exact moment or time it started happening. But as I guess maybe when I reached like 10 years old and your body is changing a little bit, your hormones are changing, and you're kind of like stepping outside yourself and understanding social norms and how people interact with one another. I start I start having these memories and these recollections of like being at family events and people that I assumed or should assume that we're blood relatives. We should be good to each other. But somehow I was always on the brunt of like being made fun of or being like criticized because my butt was so big that I wasn't proportionate or I had this like pear shaped body that I laugh at it now because like the more that I had conversations with like college friends and people as I was growing older, that the fact that my name is Kendra and I have a big ass.
Yeah, and that's a crazy thing to say to somebody like, "Oh, Kendra, you have such a big," like you said that to me. People would actually say, "You have such a big," like, let's stop right there. Would you say to anybody?
It's like bubble butt, like the song I like big butts and I cannot lie. Cannot to this day go out to a bar and have that song come on without everyone around me literally singling me out and putting me in the center. So I'll share a little story with you because a few months ago, I went out with like this new circle of friends that I have because my daughter, who is 10, and we befriended each other. So it was like mom's night out. Let's go out. So we went to this place called the Laundromat in Morristown. So fun. It was like you're walking in and you think that you're going to an actual laundromat, but then there's this security guy that opens up this door and it is no longer a laundromat. You're going down into the basement. It was like it's a speakeasy and they're playing like all sorts of music, like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all that good stuff. It's a tight dance floor. So there's all walks of life in there, but mostly I would say between the age of like 35 and 55. This is the crew that's hanging out down there. And yeah, I'm just dancing, having a great time. And this couple that is dancing, and this is fast dancing, there's no slow song. This couple that's dancing behind me, I get tapped on the shoulder, and this woman is like, I just have to say, your ass is amazing. I've been staring at you dancing this entire time. And I'm like, okay, listen, I like attention, but it was a little weird. And then the band that was played I Like Big Butts and I Cannot Lie. And it's because of this woman literally went up on stage, took the microphone from the singer and pointed me out. And I ended up owning it. What am I going to do? I'm going to love myself. I'm going to just immerse myself in the moment. I had a fun time, but still I look back and I'm just like, that's kind of embarrassing.
It's sort of like somebody going up to somebody with a really big nose and going, you know, you look like a lot like Pinocchio. I wonder if you lied, would it grow? What did you do? So you went with it and you were like, yeah, let's shake it.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
Kendra Kardashian, as much as I hate the entire Kardashian clan for their ridiculousness.
I know, but they made my ass like in style now. That's what I say. I'm like, I'm in style now. I too bad when I was growing up in my elementary and high school years and even my early college years, that wasn't in style. That wasn't. I was like hiding. I was like trying not to bring attention. So literally with like every outfit stand in front of the mirror and be like, ask myself. I wasn't one to be like, does my butt look big? Does this make my butt look big? I'm like, I'm not asking for the attention. I'm literally in my head just being like, okay, is this proportionate? Is this appropriate? Am I showing off too much skin? Like I would never walk around with leggings. That was like not something that like it's like I had to wear denim because it like kept things in.
No, I mean, no, I think where I want to go with the conversation about your butt and people telling you your butt was big in the days that it wasn't vogue to have one is what it led you to become in your head about yourself. What story did you have about yourself? And then what did you have to overcome? Because that's a body image thing. And now body image is all the rage, but in that time it wasn't. So that's where I want to connect the dots for the audience is what do you do? All right, somebody makes fun of you. In my case, you know, there was a lot of other things that people made fun of me for, but they informed or they created a person, a personality, an outcome that you became for yourself and for the world. And I don't know what that was, but then what did you have to learn from it? Because what did people around you and your family, they weren't focused on that continuous learning, were they?
Well, no, and as I moved away and left my house was the point that I really realized maybe the things that I'm putting in my body are not the best thing for me. Like every body is different. But going back a little bit and what I speak to in the book is the moment where I made the conscious decision to not drink soda anymore. And I was reading about the sugar and just the empty calories and how much water intake I should be actually having on a daily basis. And I was very interested in not just getting skinny. That wasn't my goal. It was like I want to be healthy and I want to feel good about myself and I want to make conscious choices around what I'm putting inside my body. So I feel, and I look back at it now, it's like, wow, it was very mature for, I was like eighth grade, freshman year of high school. And I knew at that moment when I was able to make that decision on like, I'm only drinking water from this point forward, that I was like, wow, I really do have the power to make anything happen. You put your mind to something and you can accomplish it. I mean, going back, like my parents, my immediate family, we weren't athletic people. Like my dad was outside. I mean, he would build houses. He would, we would be outside in the yard and being active in that way, but we were not exercising to, make sure that
Yeah.
our heart was healthy and we weren't making food to make sure that like, we're having a well balanced meal. We're like eating because food is delicious and what's going to be delicious today. It wasn't about what's going to make me a healthier, better, thriving person. So I would wake up and have more energy tomorrow so now it's so just a part of who I am. And now that I have two children and my daughter is about to be 10 And she's facing some of these social norms, realities, like they're coming to fruition. And I find myself that for the first time, I'm like, I'm really confident in being a mom and being able to give good advice. And, I'm
Yeah.
excited for where my daughter is going to end up because I just think back, I'm like, wow. And I don't think my mom's going to listen to this podcast. So if my mom was even half of the mom I am today, I wonder where I would be right now. But I'm happy. There's no regrets. I am who I am today because of the things that I went through. So,
But then you flip side is if you had you as a mom, you would be a different you. There's the idea of choice and being better, but better at what? And you have heard me say this many times. You can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. And I say this to you sometimes to give, to have you think about giving yourself a break on certain things because like, you can't, mandate that you're going to be home and make a delicious meal for your children 7 days a week and be at the practices and the things and work out for yourself and do all these wonderful billable hours and make all the clients happy with their crazy deadlines and something has to give every day. So talk about some other choices that you had throughout being younger.
so after I had the opportunity of being a part of a nonprofit and really seeing how women and young girls that are extremely less fortunate than me and immersing myself in that world for a little bit and really understanding it made me be a better human when you're dealing with anti-trafficking and women that are you know being abused mentally and physically and they're being forced to do things that they don't want to do and then now all of a sudden they have children that they have to take care of and they're still children themselves. So when I am faced with a challenge or an issue, I do think back to those moments and it brings me back to reality, makes me think about things in a different perspective. And as heavy of these topics
Totally.
are, I feel like a lot of that stuff was like hidden when you were a child. Like your parents like prevented you from being too exposed. And when Matt and I became parents, I really feel like it's important that you do explain the why behind certain things. Like I look back now and I'm like, if I really understood the foundational reason behind my parents not wanting me to stay out past 11 p.m. because it's not necessarily me being a bad driver on the road and it's dark out. It's like, actually, no, we live in the country and there's animals that could be like jumping out in front of the road, or there are intoxicated drivers on the road. I'm not worried about you being a good driver. It's the other people on the road that I'm worried about. And I feel like I didn't get it as a kid. I don't think that it was really explained to me in whatever, 5 different ways. I don't care. Sometimes when I need to prove a point with my daughter, we're going to hash this out and I will explain it to you in every way possible until you truly understand where I'm coming from. She's not even 10 yet. So she's very, I would say, agreeable. She knows when she is stuck in a conversation where she's only going to get so far, where she's nodding. And then I'll say, well, I appreciate that you're agreeing with me and that you're nodding and you're showing all those signs that you understand, but actions speak louder than words. So actions speak louder than words, and you're going to prove it to me. So the next time this certain situation happens again or this conversation comes up again, you're going to tell me all the reasons why.
I mean, in my house, it was my dad's way or the highway, and it's like all he had to do is do one of these with his eyebrows, and it was over. It was like game over from the beginning. You didn't even talk back, because if I talked back, I got my ass kicked, literally, physically ass kicked. I remember slamming the door when I was 16 or 7, and he went after me. Like my aunt and my mother had to stand between my father so he wouldn't beat the shit out of me.
No, I know. I'm like, if that's just, I mean, I'm sure there's families that still participate in that type of discipline. I feel like that's not going to get you anywhere. I mean,
There's no way it gets you anywhere. There's no way, right?
there's no way, no way. I just know that through sincere conversation that my children are going to see my side. But again, I have small children. I have not had to handle the teenage years yet, which I know I've been warned about. So I'm trying to embrace every small moment.
I talk to me about conscious decisions. Where does that show up for you? Because we talk about certain things in the book, and that's fine. And this podcast is obviously here to illustrate some of the points that we make in the book, that I make in the book, but it's not exclusive, right? So if we had a Kendra chapter that was 50 pages instead of one or two, where would choice show up for you? You can talk about anything, really, because I think you've read a few of the first chapters, so you can go anywhere you want. This is an open mic kind of day.
I know that my mindset, I had a mindset shift when I worked and was the managing director at a fitness facility that we met at. So, really having to expose myself to just different readings and different speaking engagements that we had, I started just like dabbling in understanding that there's not a set path for everyone. There's not just one road that you are just destined for, because you can make a different choice tomorrow that perhaps maybe you were on this certain path. However, you decided to do this instead, and then all of a sudden your path went this way. It doesn't mean that either path is better. It's just every choice that you make matters. So it can matter very little to one person, or it's a big decision for someone else. But all these little decisions,
Micro moments? You mean micro moments?
all these little micro moments and those micro decisions add up. And I know that if I had someone rooting for me, like really rooting for me, I mean, I really am not here to bash my upbringing and my parents. However, their education was only so much. They grew up with not a lot. So their goals were different than my goals. And I can understand that. I'm like the youngest of three children. So I got to see an experience like my two older sisters have a different experience with my parents. And I think because I was the youngest, I really was able to step back and just see, like, okay, this is good. This is not good. I don't want to be that. Okay, I can get behind that. And I was always very timid. Like I'm not one to just like jump and jump into something and make a rash decision, although I have, and I have done those things. But yeah, I'm a little more thoughtful, and I need to just, look at all, full circle. I need to look at all angles and all possibilities, and then decide what's the best choice for me. So I use that a lot, making a conscious decision, because you're not just moving and acting without there being some sort of purpose or intention behind it. If I get up in the morning and I have my smoothie or my power shake or whatever it is, my children are following my lead. So I know that I want to show up every day in a certain way, not because I need to be perfect, which I've gotten that before, heard that I'm a perfectionist. And there, I do have OCD tendencies, don't we all? I like things a certain way. But I just know that I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna show up a certain way for my children because I want them to have all the opportunities in the world. If they want to accomplish something, if they want to pursue something, I'm not one to push and harp on my beliefs, but they see. So, I love that my daughter gets up before me a lot of the times and is downstairs and is getting our NutriBullet ready because she's making herself a smoothie because she wants to start her day putting good things in the pot. I love that, like, when they insist on, Mom, I ate all my dinner tonight. Do I get dessert? And dessert can take on many meanings. It doesn't always have to be something sweet. It's just something, a little treat. And they know by just me looking at them a certain way that they're like, I want a healthy dessert. Even my 3-year-old, Elliot, will say, Mom, can I have a healthy dessert? I'm like, okay, well, what's that? Like, what's a healthy dessert? And I'm like, go pick it out. Like, go tell me what that is.
So what does he pick out if he wants a healthy dessert? What's that one?
Well, we have like the way my refrigerator is, there's like this like little door to the right. So it's like his almost like his little refrigerator. So we hook him up with some snacks in there. So he'll get like an apple squeezy pouch, or we have like a sugar-free vanilla pudding that he just enjoys and he wants to crumble like graham crackers on top of it. It just makes me feel like, again, if I had some parents making some healthy, conscious decisions growing up.
That wasn't really the thing then. Trust me.
I remember going to my friend's house and her aunt, you open up her refrigerator and she had like organic and gluten free and dairy free stuff. Like she was like ahead of her time. I swear. When we called her the cool aunt. So like when you open up her fridge, I was like, wow, what is all this?
Well, we were the Mediterranean diet before it was really popular here. I'm like, Mediterranean diet? That's how I eat. What are you talking about? Have a lot of olive oil. I'm like, duh.
Right.
Like margarine wasn't allowed in my house. That was like a bad thing, like that is disgusting. Why would you eat the margarine when you can have butter? Like it was anyway.
Oh my God. No, well, yeah, I didn't like if I ate healthier growing up, like I do remember like being up and going to the bathroom in the middle of the night and my stomach hurting. Like, what was I eating? Like if that was happening to my child now, I'd be like, oh my gosh, maybe the chicken was contaminated. Maybe I didn't cook something properly. Like it's not the actual ingredients that I'm feeding you. Like I must have given you some sort of food poisoning for you to react like this. But it has totally opened different doors for me,
Sure.
for sure. And I show up differently, like in regards to my energy. So I know myself. Like I'm tired today. I'm a little more sluggish today.
So getting back to what you said before, we could talk about nutrition, which I think we should do at a different point in time. I want to talk a lot about nutrition and how, your body is created in the kitchen, not in the gym. I'll table that for now. You said something that I want to come back to. You like to assess the situation before you just jump in. And that's your choice. That's the way it is. And, after Monique became a Y Institute coach and we did your why, then you're very thoughtful in how you develop both strategy and implement stuff and how
Right.
you approach things. And you said something in the book as well as sort of that related back to how you grew up and having your sister be like the unknown, almost like she was a piece of dynamite that could explode at any minute kind of thing. So you learned to be that chameleon, right? You learned to watch the and assess the situation before you just jumped in because you didn't want to get burned by the crazy that was around you. So Kendra's very clear that there's a right way to do things, and she won't do anything until she's confident that she's doing it the right way. And for her, it has to be very logical and very thoughtful. But it also she's very definitive. It's either right way or it's not. So she would rather not do it than not do it the right way, which goes back to wanting to. It's a little perfectionist kind of thing, but you can be counted on to have that research and assessment done thoroughly before you just delivered something, which is what I love about you. Anyway, so coming back to how did that start when you were a kid, your sister and the situation. So that I think has foundational traction there.
Yeah, I guess I would say to a certain extent that I was walking on eggshells a lot of the time around family members not wanting to shake things up. Yeah, I would be a little more agreeable on the day-to-day basis because life was easier for me to just go with the flow.
What was your sister's situation for the audience to understand better in case they don't read the book?
Yeah, so I for as long as I can remember, so I was told I think I'm only like 18 months younger than my middle sister, and we shared a room, and there was a lot of arguing and fighting, and there wasn't a lot of like why going on or how can we really fix the root of the problem or the situation or the issue. It was just, you know, finding out later in life that she was bipolar and that she had signs of schizophrenia, which she was never officially diagnosed as a schizophrenic. But she would plant crazy stories in my head. And there were times where I really believed them and really just, yeah, talk about reprogramming your mindset and your brain. And, there are times where I feel like I am gullible on certain things. I want to truly believe people that they are good and what they're saying is true. So yeah, there was a lot of sadness, I would say. I have my fondest memories of spending time with my grandparents, either my mom's parents or my dad's parents. I would like count the days to be able to spend time and sleep over their houses. And then when I, grew up a little bit more and started doing sleepovers at my friends' houses, there were certain friends that I would cling to not because I was like really good friends with the friend, but I really enjoyed their family and spending time at their house and just seeing how other families interacted with each other and cared for each other. And I I would say that a lot of the way that I bring up my children now and the way that I live my life now is because of the people that I consciously surrounded myself with. So, like people do come out of adversity. I'm like really connected to the lotus flower. I love that story of coming through the muck and, still being able to be beautiful and thriving and, everything that you want to be, regardless of where you came from, whatever it's like you are not your story. So I take all of that with a grain of salt. And as, many times it's been told to me, it's like, well, how can you turn your back on your sister, your bloodline? How could you, not want to help her? Or it's like, it's not about not wanting to help her. It's just that I've been burned so many times that it doesn't do me any good. It puts me in a bad place. It actually puts my family in a very dangerous place because I don't want to be surrounded by drama that's unnecessary. And until you come to me to tell me that you are consciously going to make serious changes in your life, then you don't have room in my life. Why do I have to put myself out? Like, I'm the younger sister. Why do I have to act like I am the better one? Why am I carrying you? And it's unfortunate that my sister had a child when she was 21, and I still remember like finding out about that and dreading it and feeling it like deep in my gut that I just knew deep down that we were going to end the child. And we love her, and she's going down her own path, and she's 18 now, but it's just, it was so scary. It's so scary. And then I am like, I can't take on anyone else's baggage.
So there's a lot of choice. And then that micro moment where you said, I'm not going to put up with any more of your drama. I'm not going to put up with any more of you're crazy, because you've been there, done that, and you've burned the whole family before. That's a choice. Some people keep doing it. I'm related to somebody that's very much like that. And the mother keeps falling for it. And sometimes the word tough love comes into play, right? Yeah. So you can't get hoodwinked more than a couple times before you start to look at yourself and say, I'm the pansy. I'm the one that got taken advantage of. I don't think we choose our birth order. I don't think we choose who the advocate is in the family. I don't think we choose any of that. But then what we do with it is what I talk about in the book, I think. And my story. So I definitely didn't choose to be the parents to my parents. Again, back to choice. I think we talked a lot about micro moments. We talked about body image. We talked about family dynamics being super, super important. How what you say is important, but what you do is more important. We have that here too a lot. Kids will sort of pay attention to what you say, specifically at a double digit age, but they'll pay much more attention to what you do. So if you want them to do something, you have to emulate behavior. Is there anything else you want to leave the audience with? Because I think you've really covered a lot of great stuff.
Well, I would like to just end with what I like my mantra is, if it is to be, it's up to me. And I really feel that on a daily basis. I remind myself of that because I know that my choices have power. And yes, whether I'm speaking to something, but more so showing up and being the person that I want to be and that I want my children to remember me as. I am. I feel like I talked a lot about my personal life, but professionally, the same way. I still feel like I'm figuring out what I really want to be when I grow up.
Me too.
I want to stay forever young in that way, but I feel as though, the more that I expose myself and immerse myself to, different readings, listening to different podcasts, that I'm picking up different nuggets every day, and that every day is a learning experience because I don't want to stop. The saying of like if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah, if you're not growing and learning, you're starting to die.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm going to be a learner for life. And I am grateful. So starting my day with gratitude and really feeling it, not just saying it, not just saying I'm grateful for the ability to be able to work with someone as amazing as you are, but ultimately that we made this decision together.
If it is to be, it is up to me. Those are the words of wisdom. That alone is worth the price of admission, my friends. Thank you so much, Kendra Debree. You are amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to Possibilities with Monique de Maio, where we unpack life as a female mover and shaker. If you like the show, please consider liking it, or better still, subscribing to it and leaving us a rating. It truly does help. Also, you can pick up my book, The 7 Secrets to Creating a Life You Love, a practical guide for women in leadership. You can find the book, other episodes of this podcast, and how to stay in touch at moniquedemaio.com. DEMAIO. I look forward to seeing you again soon. With gratitude, Monique.